Hello and welcome to Yaroke Academy of Healing, Expanding, Spiritually Transforming, and Mastering Energetics, which literally is just mastering your energetic vibration by rewiring your nervous system so that you can create the life that feels how you want it to feel. I am Yaroke, your host, leadership mentor, nervous system genius, clinically trained therapist, spiritual teacher, and energetic sorceress. Hello, we're going to dive into a topic today that came from a high level client. This question she asked, one of her clients had said, how do you discern between your trauma and your intuition? And I thought, oh, I talk about this all the time. I for sure have a podcast on this, or I have a Instagram live on this. I did not, which is just insane. So we're going to do a YouTube video, and this is going to be a podcast episode because this is probably one of the most important things you'll ever learn. Truly. And I say that about a lot of things. And it's complicated and it's nuanced and it's not going to look exactly like you think it should look. And one of the reasons to join a mentorship program like the portal or like any program with me is that in my work, I help you decondition from society, from old, limited, stagnant beliefs, from conditioning, and I help you heal your trauma and the wounds and attune to your inner child so that you can actually hear the truth, my loves, of your soul, of what you are meant to do in this world and how you are meant to feel in this world and how you're meant to show up. And every action becomes aligned action. Now, when we're talking intuition, this is so tricky because sometimes you're going to make a choice that then is going to end up in a catastrophe. And you're going to tell yourself, well, I shouldn't have done that. I wasn't listening to my intuition. But what did you learn from the catastrophe? What did you learn from the catastrophe? So when you're discerning between, is this my trauma or is this my intuition? Intuition is always calm. This is the simple way to put it. Your intuition is always calm. You're going to feel a calm knowing in your body that's like, yes, this is the way. If you are experiencing anxiety or frenetic energy or overthinking, you're clouding your intuition. If you're making choices from anxiety, frenetic energy, overthinking, or shoulds, then you're not listening to your intuition. And now what will happen is you'll start to get sick, either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. So depression, anxiety, PCOS, really bad period cramps, inflammation, potentially even cancer. SAD, seasonal affect disorder. That's not a real thing. That's you're not living your joy, your heart, your spirit, your breath, or you're terrified of the dark, right? Like, think about that. We're cyclical creatures. We're not meant to be in the sun all the time. We're meant to have seasons of hibernation where we go into the dark. And if you don't feel safe to be in the dark, you're going to think you have SAD because you're going to get depressed. You're going to think, I need sun. You are meant to have periods of hibernation. It's not going to look like a bear, obviously, but you're meant to go into hibernation a bit and to actually excavate what is meant to come forward from you. Okay. You may have migraines. You may have just like gossip or chaos or all of these things come up in your life. These are indicators that you're not taking aligned action, that you're not listening to your intuition, and that you're not attuned to your energetic vibration and your frequency. So when you're asking yourself, is this my trauma or is this my intuition? It can be tricky, especially when other people are involved. So let's talk about like, it's also going to be what's happening with your attachment, right? How activated is your attachment disorder? Because we all have one, whether it's anxious or avoidant or like dysregulated insecure attachment in some capacity, whether it's disorganized attachment, which is a combination of anxious and avoidant. This is a whole other video, but your attachment style will literally cloud everything. And so your ability to trust your intuition will be largely dependent upon how securely attached you are, because how securely attached you are is going to be interconnected to how much your nervous system is in regulation, and how much your nervous system is in regulation will determine how many of your trauma responses, maladaptive coping mechanisms like scrolling, control, obsessing, ruminating, perfectionism, addictive behaviors, right? Like drinking every night, scrolling on your phone, binge watching TV, over exercising, overdoing, needing to be perfect, like how much of that is activated is going to be dependent upon how regulated your nervous system is. And then how much those behaviors are activated will determine the clarity with which you hear, experience, and take action on your intuition. And I want you to land with all of that. Yes, this would be a good one for my whiteboard. It's coming, you all. I promise it's coming. We're going to have a whiteboard. Okay. So I just want you to land with what I just said. That's a lot to take in. And so we can get very perfectionistic about it. We can get really rigid. We can be like, oh, well, I have to be perfectionistic is the perfect way to put it. I have to be perfect around my intuition. I have to make sure it's my intuition. Sometimes it's not going to be. Sometimes you're going to choose through your trauma or your ego or your activated inner child. And then, like I said at the beginning, it'll be, can I learn from this? So last year, was it last year? Yes, last year, and actually a little bit the year before, I made an ego choice in terms of a business mentor that I hired, and I spent a lot of money. And about a year into the mentorship, I realized that it was an ego choice, and I started to really see clearly where I got disconnected from myself, and I had a massive ego death around it. Like I could just feel and see and sense where it was this part of me that really wanted impact and wealth. And it's not that I don't desire those things, I do. In the process, I thought this person was going to get me to there. And I became very disconnected from the purity of who I am and what I offer and the way that I go about sharing it. And I could see it and I could feel it. And I just sat and cried and cried and cried. And I had to forgive myself. Now, one could say I didn't listen to my intuition, but the truth is, I needed to learn that lesson. And so, because I needed to learn that lesson, my intuition let me be guided by my ego so that I could make the ego choice, so that I could learn the lesson, so that I could come more fully home to myself and really embody the purity of my wisdom and who I am. And that is worth its weight in gold. It doesn't matter actually how much money I spent on this. That lesson of my embodied wisdom is going to carry me so much farther. And so I ask you all to really sit with, what's a choice you've made that was not in alignment? It was either your activated inner child, or it was your ego, or it was a should based upon something someone else wanted you to do, that then actually led you to learn a very important lesson that allowed you to more fully listen to your intuition. So one of the reasons it's so important to be in environments like in my programs, like in the portal, is to have other people around you to witness you, to see you, to help guide you through these decisions. Like I never tell my clients what to do. I will tell them the energetics I feel. Do I feel attachment energy? Do I feel inner child energy? Do I feel should energy? Do I feel conditioning energy? Do I feel their ego? I will tell them that. But ultimately, they have to make their own choices. And then as they make their choices, as they take action, we really refine, was this your intuition? Was this your ego? Was this your inner child? What did you learn from this? How is this happening for you? Whatever it is. And so being able to discern between your intuition and your trauma is going to be a journey, and it's going to ask you to fall in love with the journey. It's never going to be perfect. Like we can get very perfectionistic about this. What, like I said, sometimes you're going to make an ego choice. Sometimes you're going to make a misaligned choice, and then you learn from it. The question is, are you learning from it? Are you allowing yourself to learn from it, or are you getting sick? Are you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically sick? Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? Like, do you feel like you have to take meds? And I'm not here to ever tell anyone to get off meds. This is not medical advice. Like, you have to do what you have to do. But what I know to be true is that when you are in alignment with your soul, with your spirit, with your heart, with your breath, with your intuition, that divine inner knowing within you, you feel calm, you feel connected, you feel able to make choices and take action, and you feel lit up and juicy in your life. You're Okay Academy is all about making people feel alive and joyful and connected and abundant and free. And part of that is feeling safe to listen to your intuition, despite what anyone else might think. Sometimes your intuition is going to tell you some crazy ass shit, and you're going to be like, really? Is that true? But you'll know it. You'll be able to feel it in your body. It's this overwhelming, it's making me teary. It's this overwhelming feeling of calm and certainty. Calm and certainty. And if you can't hear the calm and certainty, then you have walls or layers really of trauma, of defenses. It could be walls and layers, trauma, defenses, protectors, ways your nervous system knows safety and doesn't feel safe to listen to your intuition, because your intuition is going to guide you to the thing that feels illogical sometimes. And your rational brain, your protective, sweet brain, is going to want to come in and be like, that's crazy. You can't do that. You can't trust that. Who the fuck do you think you are? Nobody's going to listen to you. And then your attachment wounding is going to get activated. Like I said at the beginning, it's not just about your attachment style, it's that we as humans are attachment-based creatures. So we want to be accepted, we want to belong, we want to be loved. And we're going to make choices based upon that until we feel safe enough to make choices based off our own inner being, our own wellness, and our own intuition. We will choose attachment over authenticity. That's Dr. Gabor Mate's theory, which means, and this should be a whole other video, because I go well and beyond what, like, I learned this from him, and it really is you actually being able to create your own world and to really honor yourself. And so it's choosing not just authenticity. Yes, it's authenticity, but it's your most embodied, most powerful, most connected, most magical self over attachment. And this could be attachment to a belief, a person, a job, a family, a way of being, a society, a structure. Like, it literally could be anything. And until you have that internal safety in your nervous system to shed that attachment to needing to be accepted, to needing to belong, to needing validation, you will continue to choose attachment over authenticity, which means you will choose attachment over your intuition. And so it's going to ask you to get so honest with yourself, so honest. Like, I just lean back and take a breath, because sometimes it's really painful to look at the ways that we have neglected ourselves, denied ourselves, not listened to our intuition, ignored our intuition to our own detriment until we're actually sick. And I'm sure you can either relate to this, or you know someone in your life who has done this, where you have ignored yourself and your intuition for so long that you're sick. You're anxious, you're depressed, you're running around grasping like a little inner child, just holding on for safety, for someone to validate you. You're, having physical symptoms. Maybe you have acne, maybe you have PCOS, maybe you have gut issues, maybe you have inflammation. Like, how is this showing up for you? What is the symptom? And those are all symptoms of not listening to your inner being, not listening to your intuition, not listening to your heart, not listening to what you know to be true in your body. And the way to get there is to come home to yourself, which is what we do in Your Okay Academy. You come home to yourself. Coming home to yourself is the most important and most terrifying thing you'll ever do, because when you sit with yourself, and I always encourage everyone to have a meditation and a chanting practice and a yoga practice, some somatic movement, and some stillness. We need the stillness. And you're not going to like the stillness at first. Like, when people say, oh, I can't meditate, I can't be still. Yeah, of course. Because sitting in meditation is not initially about calming your mind. It's initially about letting all the dark, dirty shit that you've ignored come to the surface, so you can be honest about it, so you can metabolize it, so you can process it, so that you then can be connected back to you in nervous system regulation, and you can take aligned action from that place. But initially in meditation, it's going to feel really activating, which is why, again, it's important to be in group environments where you're held, where you're seen, where you're attuned to, and where you're called out on your sneaky BS. Like, no, you're not too busy to meditate. You're not too busy to meditate. You will tell yourself that. It's been societally conditioned within you to believe that, because your nervous system is activated and it thinks it has to fight and flight, and it can't sit still, and you can't look at this stuff, and you can't consciously evolve, because when you start to consciously evolve, you're going to have to look around you at all of the bullshit that is so unconscious, and you start to feel like you don't fit in anymore. And then when you don't feel like you fit in anymore, you feel like you're going to die, and then you have shame for being different, right? And we all want to avoid shame. And when you avoid your shame, you avoid yourself. There are many things happening in this video, as you can see. To bring it back to, how do you know if it's your intuition versus your trauma? When you listen to this video, write all these things down. Sometimes you're going to be led astray so that you can learn, but you actually have to learn. If you're led astray for too long, you will get sick. Listen to your body will tell you. Have daily practices: meditation, chanting, journaling, dancing, shaking, movement, yoga, some kind of practice that moves things through your body, that gets you still, that calms the fluctuations in your mind so you can hear your inner being, which is in your body. Your soul, your heart, your spirit, your breath, it comes from your body. Your mind is there to protect you until you train your mind. But if your mind is undisciplined, it's just going to lead you astray. And discipline is the greatest act of devotion. So when you have these disciplined daily, notice I said daily practices, and you can start small. You can start with a minute, you can start with 2 minutes, you can start with 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then you slowly start to build. When you have these daily practices, you train your mind. You then get clear. You can then hear and feel and sense your intuition. You then have to feel safe enough to act on it, aligned action, without fear of judgment, of rejection, of criticism. And then you have to trust the journey along the way. So if you make a misaligned choice, if you make an ego choice, if you make an inner child choice, are you safe enough in your body? Is your nervous system safe enough for you to actually learn that? Do you have secure enough attachment to choose your most embodied, powerful, magical self over what others think, or over keeping an attachment relationship? Because when you start to shift in this way, your relationships are going to shift, and that's okay. You have to feel safe enough and in your power enough to allow that to happen. This is an overview of how to listen to your intuition versus your trauma. It's a process, it's a journey. Fall in love with it, get curious about yourself, surrender to your body, to your being, to your breath. Get curious, get honest, look at the dark, ugly parts of yourself and the ways you attach on, and the ways you seek saving, and the ways you people please, and the ways you're terrified of actually showing up and being authentically you and listening to your intuition. Look at the ways that you take things personally and you call it intuition when it's actually your activated inner child. This is a really important one, and this needs to be its own video. Sometimes we think someone's doing something to us and we think it's our intuition, but really it's our activated inner child who's taking things personally. And then you, as your adult embodied self, are not energetically leading. And so you are perpetuating your own wounding, right? So let's say you're at work and you're not getting the promotion and you're being bitter and resentful and you're like, oh, they're just not giving me that promotion because of this, that, or the other. Maybe you're a woman. Maybe you think it's just a man's world, but you're not actually standing up and communicating and saying what needs to be said. Or maybe you got a text from someone you're dating and you perceive it a certain way, and then you take it all personally, and then you get graspy or you shut down. You're not leading from your embodied, most powerful self. And so in order to actually get curious, listen to your intuition, here's the thing: even if your perception is right, you energetically have the power to shift it and shift the outcome of it when you're connected to your personal power. Again, this is a whole other video. So your intuition may be quote unquote right, your perception may be right, but it's only right because that's the perception you carry, that you're not going to be treated well or you're not going to get the promotion. If you believe that, that's what's going to happen. And so then it could be your intuition because you're creating that. However, if you perceive that, you can stop and go, what do I need to do to shift this? Who do I need to become for this to be a different outcome? And then your intuition is going to guide you to the aligned action to transmute the wounds that need to be transmuted, process the pain that needs to be processed, bring you to the level of personal power you need to hold in order to guide you to take the action you need to take to create the outcome you would like to receive. Do you see how complicated this process is and how easy it is? It simply is a matter of how safe do I feel in my body to trust that it's all happening for me and that I can trust my inner guidance, and I can learn to not take things personally, to process the feelings of the young part of me who are taking things personally, and to show up differently. Trusting your intuition is an act of personal power. Discerning between intuition and paranoia takes refinement, and your paranoia is a trauma response. It's protective. Anything that's protective is not actually your intuition, because if something's happening, like you're not getting the promotion or the person doesn't want to date you or whatever it is, rejection is God's protection. And so when you take it personally, you simply perpetuate a narrative, a story, a belief that then that's the lens through which you see your life, which that's your trauma. Whereas if you can go, rejection is God's protection and it's all happening for me, then you can transmute whatever lesson needs to be transmuted, whatever initiation's being activated, whatever pain needs to be activated or alchemized, excuse me. And then you can take aligned action based upon your intuition of what is next. All right. I hope you had your notes out for this one. Go rewatch it, write these steps down, start to witness the way that you are responding in your daily life. Start to practice on small things with your intuition. And the more attuned you become to yourself, the more you come home to yourself, the more regulated your nervous system. And remember, regulated does not mean calm all the time. It means regulated. It means you're able to move from each nervous system state to the next. So you can get activated, but you come back down into ventral, which is connection, home, and joy and love. It's being regulated. It's having a flexible nervous system that is not stuck in one state because of unprocessed trauma. So when you have a regulated nervous system and you can hear and listen to your intuition, you can take that aligned action, which sometimes the aligned action is to pull back, get still and trust. When you have daily practices that help you attune to your inner being, and you're in spaces where you're held, you're seen, you're attuned to, and you're called out on your sneaky BS, like the portal, my 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month group mentorship program. Such beautiful space to be in, to actually embody these ways of being. So if you're interested, reach out to me on Instagram, write in the comments below any notes you took, anything you learned. I want to hear, I want to be engaged with you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next week.